everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Perspectives. I'm Tara.
Kimberly.
And I'm Leslie.
Today's topic has been a fun source of debate over the years. Is chivalry dead? Chivalry is a concept that goes way back to the times of medieval knights in shining armor rescuing damsels in distress. It originated as a code of conduct and included virtues such as bravery, loyalty, honor, and courtesy, along with the duty to protect the helpless, women included. It involved the concept of courtly love, which reinforced the notion of knights performing grand gestures and acts of bravery to win a lady's favor. Well, chivalrous acts have transformed from their origins to the present day. But while the context and expressions of chivalry have evolved, have the underlying values adapted to contemporary social norms and expectations? We'll discuss why some people still hold on to traditional expectations of chivalry, and while others feel it's an outdated concept. Is it about respect and care, or does it reinforce old-fashioned gender roles? We're asking, does chivalry still have a place? Is chivalry dead? We've got a lot to talk about. So welcome to Unfiltered Perspectives, where real talk leads to real growth and every perspective is valued.
Thank you, Tara. That was an amazing introduction into this topic. I can't wait to hear where this goes. Is it an outdated concept? I am all for gender roles, but this time I want to start with Kimberly. So ladies, let's get into it. Kimberly, what do you say?
What? Start with me.
Absolutely.
I am going to be contrary because you say chivalry and I hear patriarchy. So bravery, all for it. Loyalty, honor, courtesy, love them, love them, love them. Protecting the helpless, including women, not so much.
Point blank, period. That's it.
I'm interested to hear your argument for chivalry, but if chivalry is understood as, protecting helpless women, I'm not for it. I'm not helpless.
Okay. Tara, you want to chime in?
Yes, I do. I agree with what Kimberly has said. I am all for the underlying values such as bravery, kindness, honesty, loyalty. However, those values, I believe, are timeless. The part where we're talking about women being helpless and the reason for the chivalrous acts, chivalry itself being to protect the weak, being to protect helpless women, I don't think that those necessarily still apply because our society has changed. I'm not helpless, but I think also that the values espoused or the values that we think about when we talk about chivalry go beyond gender. Anyone can have those. Everyone, I think, should have those, regardless of gender.
Mm-hmm. I think that we all agree. Imagine that, right? When I think when we heard Tara say helpless, being helpless, a helpless woman, I'm like, no, not so much. Mm-hmm. Those values, like you said, are timeless. And I don't believe that chivalry is dead. I do believe in this, I guess, current time, this generation, most recent generation, it's something that needs to be taught. It's not being taught. I have to say, when I think of chivalry, like Kim, you just mentioned about it being, I think about men. I don't think about it. I don't think about women when I think chivalry.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of for this present time? What do you ladies think of when you think of chivalrous act?
I think about actions such as holding doors for people, mm-hmm. opening doors for people. If someone needs assistance, being there to lend a helping hand. I think about treating people kindly. I think about, what else do I think about? all of those things, giving up your seat on a
Giving up your
bus
seat,
or,
right?
yeah,
Right. Mm-hmm.
to someone who looks like they need it, regardless of if they are, regardless of gender.
And you know what? I guess when you talk about regardless of gender, I am not a young person, but I wouldn't consider myself elderly either. And so if I see an older gentleman
Mm-hmm.
that needs a seat, even though I am a woman, I guess that's where that would come into play, because I would certainly give up my seat. If I don't see that a man is going to do it, I would certainly give up my seat. So I guess that could go both ways, but it's definitely something that I hadn't thought about, because my immediate thought is, when you think of chivalry, you think of men, for me. But I agree. I think about, like you said, opening the door, pulling out a chair, giving up your seat. I mentioned, again, I tell you guys all the time, listeners, that I have a 16-year-old. So I'm teaching him these things. Walking on the outside of the sidewalk towards the traffic. He's like, why? He's like, they'll hit me first. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Putting on a lady's coat and walking her to her door. All of those things are things that I think about for this, this present time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that all of these are acts of courtesy and that are basic things. They just show basic human decency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think that it used to be the case, maybe that, as you mentioned before, you said you think of men. And I think, many people do when they hear the word chivalrous and they think of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You think, sometimes people expect the man or the guy to open the door. They expect, the car door or something like that. They
Right.
expect them to carry the heavy load or, just certain things like that, which I think if it's expected just because they are a guy, then I do think that that's outdated.
Right. So that's what I'm wondering because so far, a lot of what Tara's saying just sounds like general courtesy. And I'm wondering how you distinguish, or if you distinguish, chivalry from just any gender neutral courtesy. Whereas, Leslie, I think I do hear you saying something different, because I think I heard you say, if a man doesn't get up first, then you will get up. Or you're teaching your son to do these things, but would you also expect a woman to walk on the outside of the sidewalk on the traffic side? Would you also expect a woman to help another woman or a man on with their coat, or to walk the other person to the door?
Well, I think that goes back to, and I could be wrong, that's why we're here. That goes back to gender roles. If a man is present in a particular space, I have an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
If you and I are out, I don't have a problem holding the door for you. That's kindness. If I'm out with a man, I'm going to stand there till he opens the door. It's an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an expectation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you did not open the door for me, I don't have that expectation from you as a woman. Mm-hmm. I don't have it. But there is an expectation. Absolutely.
Okay. So what you're saying is different, I think, than what I'm saying. Because I'm saying, even if I'm out with my husband, I don't think it odd that if I get to a door first, then I hold the door. I'll open the door. I'm not going to stand there like my arms are broken and not open the door just because he's there with me.
There are those rare occasions where, if we're having a conversation or something else is going on and I just happen to do it, and it's not like I'm like, oops, and I let the door go. It's fine. But also too, in comparison to previous relationships or situations where it wasn't being done, I didn't even realize that in my opinion, it should have been being done. And so now a standard has been set. And so I will expect it moving forward, whether it be him or the next person, I will expect it. And like I said, I'm teaching it to my son. I need to see you do this, and not just for the person that he's dating. When we're out and someone's walking in or out of a place, an establishment that we're leaving or going into, and he holds the door, so many times women, I don't know why, but they do, their mouths drop. and they'll turn to me and they'll say, "Good job, mom."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like, is not everybody doing this? Apparently not. That's fine. But for me, Jordan knows it's expected. And for him, I'll stand there too until he opens the door. I absolutely will.
So for you, you mentioned the word should before and expected. Is it expected because he's a guy, or is it expected because it's the right thing to do as far as courtesy is concerned?
It shows honor, it shows respect for the person that you're with. If you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, it shows, even if it's a stranger and it's a lady, it's a certain way to treat a young lady, it's a certain way to treat a woman or the elderly or whomever. It is expected in certain situations. For me, for my son, I need to mention that. Yes.
And so I understand that, and I agree with that, but I'm wondering, like, I also, taught my son, hopefully that is the way to behave, but I didn't teach him that just because he's a guy. I taught him that because that is the right way to be in the world. You hold it, whether the person behind you is another guy or a woman, you hold the door, you open the door, you step aside, let the people go through.
Okay, so the difference for me, I guess, because like I said, when I think of chivalry, or chivalrous acts, I think of a man, even though we've already established that can go both ways.
Yeah.
So the difference for me is opening a door for a woman, a young lady, as opposed to holding a door for a guy. I can, as a young man, Jordan can open the door and step into an establishment and hold the door open for the gentleman behind him. But for the woman coming, he needs to hold the door for her and let her enter first. So it's a respect thing that he needs to be aware of, if that makes sense.
It does. Kimberly?
You seem unsure.
It's not that I'm unsure.
Or disagree.
I'm not sure that I disagree. I'm just, I don't know if I can't tell if we're saying the same thing or not.
You are definitely not saying
I'm thinking we're not.
Okay.
I'm thinking yours. I think yours is strictly a gender thing. I think
for women, it's an act of kindness, and for men, it's an act of chivalry. And I don't know if that's one and the same, but
okay.
Does that make more sense?
I'm hearing that you have different expectations for women and men.
That may be true. That may be true.
I'm not sure why y'all dancing around it.
I don't know that we're dancing around it. I think we're just trying to have clarity.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm just rolling through life all by myself. If I don't open my doors, I'm not going nowhere. So
no way.
My expectations again are just different. I mean, yeah. But also, I think if I were rolling through life with a partner, male or female, my expectations would still not be that men hold the doors or carry bags or put on coats for women.
And then too, again, we're talking about dating relationships or married relationships versus, well, if I walked into a restaurant with my brother, I would expect my brother to open the door for me. I would expect my son to open the door for me. If a stranger happens to be at the door before me, it would be nice if he did, but there isn't necessarily an expectation. In that case, would you say chivalry is dead? For that man, probably so. Probably so, But there is an expectation from me for certain people. There is. Whether it's relative to their gender or not, maybe. Like I said, it's chivalry versus, just an act of kindness.
Yeah, I think that, for me, I think that, my focus is more on mutuality. I don't think that historically I know why it is and what you guys didn't like about the helpless thing, which is fine. I don't like it either, but that is the reason why it came into play back in those days, maybe which we're talking hundreds of years ago. Nowadays, I think in this society, women are striving for equality. I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but equality. And so that means that if I want to, I don't know, I just don't expect a man to open my door. And in fact, when my husband and I were dating early on, I think I made that pretty clear, which is why I don't expect it. I know I can open my door myself. I don't need you to do that for me. Sometimes I may want it, but it's not a need for me. And if these expectations are things I think should be discussed, I guess. so that you know in your relationship what your expectations of each other are, or why they are.
Way
But in
back
my relationship, I'm sorry.
way back in the olden days when y'all were dating.
Yeah, all those many years ago. But even now, it's just that, like, I think in modern relationships, contemporary relationships, these actions can be shared equally. I don't. Mhm.
I have a more gender neutral approach to courtesy and politeness and kindness, which makes it to me a lot simpler. I expect the same things from everybody, regardless of gender, and I expect that I would treat people the same regardless of gender. I would make an effort to extend more courtesy to my elders, which is different than extending more courtesy to somebody because they're a particular gender. Likewise, I would probably pay more attention and be more careful around children for the same reason.
I think that when we either consciously or subconsciously hold the idea that chivalry is exclusive to men, it seems to play into, like Kim mentioned earlier, about your patriarchal ideals. But
how is chivalry as a concept not gender-based? Otherwise, it's just kindness or courtesy.
Exactly. That's what it is.
I think calling it chivalry is what makes it gender-based.
That's right. Right. And we're either talking about one or the other. I don't think that you can, for me, it's hard to separate the genders when you talk about chivalrous act. I really do just think man, the male.
I don't.
Is that right or wrong? Maybe, maybe not. But right now, that's where I am with it. When you kindness, just being, kind to other people, regardless of gender, regardless of age or anything else, then it's just an act of kindness. For me, when you talk about chivalry, I'm thinking about men.
Yeah, and I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I think when we're talking about chivalry, I'm thinking about the values and the actions that come from them.
Bravery, loyalty, honor, courtesy.
Yeah, things like that. Yes. And I believe that those are timeless, but also genderless. I think that anybody and everybody should espouse those things.
Okay, well, we can
agree to disagree.
And we're disagreeing.
I just think it transcends to, traditional gender roles.
Kim, are we clear that do you also agree that it's not gender specific, or
I think chivalry as a concept is a gender-based concept. Pretty aligned with patriarchy.
Okay.
I think kindness, I think courtesy, I think bravery, I think honor, all of those things, timeless, all of those things are open to everybody.
So let's pick some things apart. We talked about, Kim, if we're out together and, I open the door for you. That's an act of kindness, right? Or is it act of, or is it both?
Kindness, politeness, courtesy. So, and I would be just as I am just as likely to open the door for a woman as a man. I don't have any expectation that men ought to open the door, that men ought to walk on the side of the street closest to traffic, that men ought to help me put my coat on.
Okay. So pulling out a chair. Can you pull out your own chair if we're out to eat? If I pull out your chair for you, you're going to look at me like I'm crazy? Like, why is she pulling out my chair?
I'd be so delighted. I'd be like, oh.
Chivalry, kindness, or just plumb crazy? Like,
you. No, I'd say, thank you. But if I waited for somebody else to pull out my chair, I'd be standing a long time.
But even if we were talking just in terms of gender definition of chivalry, which again, I don't believe it is anymore. I think it's changed.
But can I just on this idea? When you say you don't believe it is anymore, do you mean that you think that most of society doesn't believe it?
I speak for myself.
That you personally don't believe it?
I personally don't believe it. Okay. But in talking to some other people, when I asked the question, and I did ask several people, is chivalry dead? not one of those people talked in terms of said, yes, no, a man does this and that. What I heard was people, people don't care about other people anymore. People are only out for themselves.
Oh,
They
wow.
didn't say a man is only out for themselves. So like I said, I speak in terms of myself, but I think when the question is put, is chivalry dead? I don't believe that most people, based on, that limited poll that I took, go separate, men and women. They group us all in together.
Mm-hmm. I am surprised by that.
Because I think that when a lot of people hear that word, they think about the qualities that we're talking about, like honor, respect, things of that nature, not gender.
Well,
I'm surprised by that. I think most people think of chivalry in terms of gender.
Well, where do we go from here?
Well, when I started thinking about this, I tried to think of reasons why the reasons behind the expectations that people have about traditional chivalry, right? And then the next question that came to my mind, can women be chivalrous? Because I know that a lot of people think of it in terms of gender. And I know because of the history, why the word came into existence. It was about men. But I think over time, with our changing, I guess, social norms, that
So you
we
think
took gender out of it, or some people move beyond a gender-based definition and took the underlying values to apply to life. And that's what people nowadays mean by chivalry. At least many people do.
I hear you. I don't agree, but I hear what you're saying.
Okay. That's fair.
This is interesting.
So we started off by saying, I think we all agree, but we clearly don't. We all think something's different. We clearly do not.
Yeah, because like I said, not that anyone is wrong. We feel how we feel, but I just never thought of women when I hear that. I still find it a little challenging when I hear women. So
why is it, if we're talking about these same values that men and women have, why is it that men get to have that label and women don't?
I mean,
I talk about the same qualities, the same actions, but why do they get to be called chivalrous and women do not?
History and etymology?
Yeah, history progresses.
Are you well, that's my answer. I know. I mean, I think everybody can be courteous. I think everybody can be brave and honorable and loyal. These are the words that you used.
Right.
I think all people can be those things. And I also think that our understanding of the term chivalrous comes out of a particular history that is gender-based and is still used in that way.
And that's I think our point of disagreement, because I don't think it's still used in that way. I think some people still use it that way, but I think a lot of other people have moved beyond that. They've expanded, our concept of that word or those actions, those qualities.
Those qualities or those acts of kindness or chivalry that we talk about, we were taught that this is what men are supposed to do, I guess, for lack of a better term. Right or wrong, it's what we were taught. It's what we've learned. And so a lot of us have not gotten away from that. And we're continuing to teach that just as doing. And I think it goes back to gender roles. We feel like that is their role as a man. It shows honor. It shows respect. It shows appreciation. It shows this, that, and the other thing. And a lot of us have not gotten away from that. And I guess by us, I mean me. And so I'm teaching that to my son as far as, the opening the door and things of that nature. It's so interesting because it seems like I have a story every week and not intentional. When you go out on a date, when you ask someone out, does this fall under chivalrous acts? Does that automatically mean that as the man, that you're paying for the date? Tara, Kim?
If I ask somebody out on a date, then I expect that I will be paying for the date.
Me too.
Okay. So,
but I'm sorry, but I did teach my son, because, we don't live apart from history. We don't live that if you invite somebody out, you probably expect, but a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of men, they do expect that when the two go out, that the man pays regardless of who does the asking out. So
I know my son is going to get so sick of when he listens to these podcasts, me using him as an example. But, he's at that dating age. And the very first time I picked them up to take them, I don't know, to the mall or wherever they were going. And the young lady went to get out of the car. And I said, he's going to come and open the door. He knew that, but and so now she knows, and she does not get out of the car until he comes and opens the door. For me, while he's underage and I'm still teaching him and grooming him, it's a requirement. And I bet 100% of the time. Now, what these young ladies decide to allow him to do later is on them, but he's been taught, and it is an expectation as a mother. Now, they are teenagers, and teenagers are going to have their little, quarrels and such. And sometimes I'll see him, feeling a certain way, and he doesn't want to open the door. And I'll say to him, what's your problem? You didn't even ask me what happened. I don't care what happened. What's your problem? We're going to address the disrespect first. You open the door, you treat her like a young lady. And then if you want to tell me what happened, we can talk about that. But you're going to be respectful, and you're going to open the door, and you're going to walk her to her door. And then we can address if y'all had an issue. Same thing with going out. They went into a little store. They're kids, they're teenagers. And it was funny at first because he didn't want to spend a little bit of money that he had with him. And I said, go back in there and get what she wants. And we had a little back and forth thing. And I had every intention on giving him back whatever he spent. But I needed him to get the lesson. I needed him to understand what he was doing and why he was doing it. And I needed her to see him be a young man and do what I taught him to do. Yeah, it's an expectation from him. And he needs to go through life understanding. I believe he has a role.
And that role is
to treat, if it's his lady, his wife, his girlfriend, whoever he's dating, with a certain level of respect, which comes with certain acts of kindness or chivalry, however you want to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're there, and I'm going to teach you and show you what that looks like. Now, they don't require it. That's another story. But you're not doing it because you weren't taught. Not doing it because you weren't taught.
And that's what I was going to ask you. You mentioned respect, but what if her expectations or what she wants, if what she sees is as respect is letting her do for herself? What if to respect her means letting her open her own door?
In this particular situation, that was not the case. I'm trying to see how to say this. That was not the case. People don't have expectations because they lack knowledge.
But what if it's the situation, though, if the way she was raised and the way she wants to live her life is not to, but to do for herself? What if she doesn't want him to open the door for her? What if that is not because she wasn't raised to expect it, but a decision on her part?
Or what if for her respect looks like getting out of the car and opening the door for him, or buying what he wants in the store?
Yes.
What if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Then let me tell you answer that. Then my son is probably not the man for her because that's the way he's being raised. Now, if after he's out of my house and he chooses to do things differently, I have no control over that. But right now, while I'm raising him and teaching him what it looks like, what it's supposed to look like, this is how we're doing it. Once you get out there, if you want to show them something different and they're okay with that, and y'all are communicating between yourselves, hey, I'm okay with opening my door. Whatever they decide after my job is done, that's on them. But this is what he's getting right now.
And so for a girl or a woman, what would respect look like? What would it look like for her to be respectful?
To be respected?
Respectful. So for a man or a boy, what it looks like to be respectful is to open doors. And for a woman, what it looks like to be respectful is
I guess it's hard to answer that question because, again, I'm still only thinking man. I definitely wouldn't expect the same things from her that I'm expecting from him. I'm not expecting her to go out to dinner and pay. I'm not expecting her to give up even to get out the car and open the door for him. All the things that we mentioned, that's not what I'm expecting her to do for my son who's supposed to be a man. It's not what I'm expecting her to do. Now, once they're adults, if that's what they agree on and it works for them, that's on them. Me as a grown woman, don't expect it from me because I'm not doing it. I'm not.
So what would you say it looks like for you to be respectful?
We're still going back to those specific acts, though. We're still going back to that.
Okay.
Because I do think that it's very gender specific. It the same. I think this. If I'm answering it correctly, I think the same things apply. I can't say that I'm never doing those things. I'm not saying that I can't pay for dinner. I'm not saying that I can't give up my seat. I'm not saying that I can't open a door. But it's just not. It's just not something that you see women do for a man. I
do that though. I do. I open the door for my husband sometimes, but I get it might depend on situation. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It's very it would have to depend on the situation. It's not something that I'm going to become accustomed to doing because it's not my role.
Okay.
For me, it's not.
That's fair.
If I happen to be, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a scenario where I might be standing in front of the restaurant. Maybe he let me out and went to go park the car and I'm already standing there and I happen to have the door open. But I'm not going to make it a habit that I'm opening the door for you on a regular basis. Or I'm not her. I'm not her. But it's what he does. It's how he honors me. That does.
Yes.
So we're talking about relationship. Now we're talking about just men in general outside of a relationship. There are still men that hold the door for a random woman. There are men they'll give up their seat. So the question is chivalry dead? I don't believe that it is.
Right. I agree. I don't believe that it is. I do believe that it has changed over the course of time.
So Tara believes that chivalry is gender neutral and not dead. Leslie believes that chivalry is gender specific and not dead. I believe that chivalry as a concept is gender specific and it probably should die.
I was quiet because I didn't know where she was going with this.
Trying to figure it out in my head.
Yeah, I'm all about shared responsibility.
Is this the first time the three of us have really been somewhat all over the place and not in agreement? And
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think so. I mean, how? Is it?
I believe so.
Maybe we always find some common ground, but
no, usually it's the two of you against me.
It's never against you.
Did she really just say we were against her? Never.
She did.
I sure did.
When was this? And where was I? That's funny.
JK.
Chivalry, not although Kim thinks it should be.
Wow. But that's interesting. It's really interesting. I'd be interested to see. I'm sorry.
No. I was about to say I would really love for the listeners to get in the comments and hear back from them because I kind of think that the three of us are not on the same page.
We are not on the same page at all. Because I'm sitting here thinking that I want, and I'm so glad that my husband respects me enough to respect my wishes about how I enter places, or respect my feelings about how I want to open my own door, how I want to, do for myself and not be forced to succumb to whatever he thinks is the way a man should act towards a woman, because I don't want you acting a way towards me. We should work together.
Are we being forced though? Because I'm on the opposite side of that. And
if I want it a certain way and he insists on doing it a way because I'm a woman or because that's what men are supposedly supposed to do, then yeah, to me, I'm being forced to accept this.
I think I'm in a slightly different position than you because I think like Leslie, I don't necessarily think of it as being forced, but I
Right.
just think in the same ways that I think men show their respect by doing these things, I think women also show their respect by doing these things.
Yes. I don't think that's different than what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if I feel very strongly that I don't want someone to open this door for me. I don't want to have to stand there and wait for someone to open a door for me because they're a man and I'm a woman, because it comes from a system of thinking that I can't do for myself, that I'm
not
helpless.
necessarily disagreeing. I'm looking at it from a different perspective. You're looking at the perspective of the person who's receiving this act. I'm looking from the perspective of the person who's offering it.
Well, when I talked about being forced, I'm talking about myself as a receiver being forced to endure this. Not that it's a hardship, but just the concept of me not being able to move as I wish or waiting on someone else to do for me when I can very well do for myself. And if that's not what I want, then I'm being forced.
Can a person be fully aware that you're independent and fully capable of doing for yourself? But can that be their way of saying, I love this person, I honor this person, let me do this thing for them to show them I love them, I care about them? It's just an act of kindness, appreciation, not that they have to, but that they want to.
It can, yes, absolutely. And I would accept it as such. And I can accept it as such. I do sometimes accept it as such. But in a situation where I've said that this is not what I want, then you love me and show me you care about me and that you respect me by giving me what I asked for.
Okay.
Not what you want me to have.
Because what's that now? Platinum rule.
And I have to go back because, like I said, we had very specific conversation about how I don't need somebody to open the door. Let me do it myself. I want to do this myself. But of course, like if you're being kind, there are situations where, sometimes I do need or want it to happen because my hands are full or whatever. That's kind. But it doesn't have, it's not because he's a man. It's because he's a decent human being and I would like that help. Or I do the same for him. His hands are full, or I get to do it first. I open it for him, but it's not because of the roles that we have. It's just because it's a kind thing to do. I don't think it's a necessary thing to do just because he's a guy. I don't think it's necessary for me to wait just because I'm a woman. But that's our relationship. That's our relationship. Other people have different expectations, different desires.
I think that for me, I was used to, like I said, the way you're explaining it, because that was all I knew. But then someone comes and set a standard and now you have an expectation from that particular person. And so, yeah, after many, many years of him doing things a certain way, this is who he is. And yeah, maybe to expect it is maybe a little bit strong, but I do because I know him and I know it's how he's going to, how you say, show up. Mm-hmm. I know how that's who he is. It's the open the door. It's the all the crazy stuff, like I just mentioned, going
crazy.
Going in the restaurant and my back has to be to the door so he can watch the door, and that whole protecting thing, and and so now Jordan is just kind of picking up those same things. Now, if someone else were to come along, would I have that expectation? Very possibly.
So now you have a knight in shining armor that have adjusted your expectations. Meanwhile, I'm just a peasant out here opening my own doors and pulling out my own chair.
Kim, we're going to go to dinner and I'm going to pull out your chair. I'm going to watch the door. I'm going to pay for your meal. Let you walk on the inside of the sidewalk. We're going to do all those things. You're going to have a whole night. Chivalrous acts. Can't even say.
You're gonna have to wait until it's winter so you can also put my coat on.
Now that I can do myself. Although we're not wearing many coats here in Florida. This is I really need we're gonna need some listener feedback. We're definitely gonna need some listener feedback.
Yes. Yeah, we are.
Some men. Let's hear from some men.
I want to hear from other women as well.
What are your expected gender roles, gender expectations? We should have had a whole conversation about gender expectations.
We really should, 'cause I really think this is actually two different concepts here.
I feel like we need to finish this hopefully with some comments from this topic and then move into gender roles because I am here for them.
Let me see them gender roles.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Time to wrap up.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Unfiltered Perspectives. So, is chivalry dead? Well, it seems that the answer depends on your perspective. Chivalry may not look the same as it did in the past, but the underlying values of kindness, respect, and courtesy continue to resonate in different forms today. These enduring values are beautifully captured in a scripture. And the one I'm thinking about is Colossians chapter 3, verse 12, which reminds us to put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. This verse encapsulates the virtues at the heart of true chivalry, urging us to embody these qualities in our daily interactions. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to tune in for new ones every Thursday morning. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, share it with your friends, frenemies, everyone. We love to hear your thoughts, so please feel free to reach out to us on social media or by email at unfilteredperspectives@outlook.com.
And send us your letters and your podcast discussion topics.
I'm Tara.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Leslie. We look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Let us know what you think. Give us your feedback on today's topic about chivalry. Is it dead? And we are going to follow up with this next episode and also move into gender roles. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.